Do straight men like flowers and actually want to receive flowers? Story 1. Different people like different things. Flowers remind me of funerals, and I never know whether they are safe for pets, so I leave them outside on my deck. Story 2. Why is Reddit obsessed with women giving men flowers? Why are the same people who have this obsession unable to search posts with the same exact title and get answers there? Story 3. I appreciate flowers, compliment my wife's choices in planting, and care for them around our yard. I love the way they look, the way they complement my vegetable garden, and provide for my bees, but I would not want an arrangement sent to me. I would rather get another pair of swim trunks or something useful than a flower bouquet. Story 4. I had a woman send me flowers recently for the first time. I said to one of my female friends, "Now I understand why you ladies like this so much. It was wonderful. I hope it happens again someday." Story 5. I don't particularly like or want flowers. I could appreciate the gesture of a small token, but my wife knows what I prefer instead. She would spend the token money or effort on magic boosters or dice when I played games more, a beer I had not tried, a baked treat, something like that. Story 6. I like them in their natural environment. I have no interest in caring for them, so gifting me a plant just shows you do not know me well at all. I would rather you save the money and did not bother than give me a bouquet, because that will go in the bin after a day or two of obligated display. Story 7. The stereotype is a bouquet of roses and a box of chocolates, right? Just get me the chocolate. And none of the fancy stuff with 40,000 flavors. Actual normal chocolate that I can, eat. Story 8. To be honest, men just want to know what it feels like to receive a just because present. That is all flowers are. It is a just because gift to let your partner know you were thinking about them. Some guys might like flowers. Others might like Legos, tickets to a concert, or a steak dinner at a fancy steakhouse. It is not about the flowers. It is just random acts of appreciation that do not revolve around sex as the reward. Story 9. The only time most men receive flowers is when they die, so they never get to see them. I am not a fan of flowers, but I would love to receive some before then. Story 10. I grow them everywhere. I am a little concerned she wants a kidney or a proposal if it is a first date, but otherwise I am good for it. Story 11. I'm indifferent to the flowers themselves. They look nice, I guess. I don't really value them beyond that. I do appreciate the gesture, though. There are things I would prefer over flowers, but that is not the point of the gesture. Story 12. For statistical purposes, I am adding myself to the straight men who do not like flowers column, specifically assuming there is a straight men who are neutral column or 3. Story 13. Most flowers are fine. I love some flowers but do not ever want to receive cut flowers. Keep them in a pot and let me plant them outside somewhere. However, I would have to own a house before that, so just bring me a muffin or something instead. Story 14. I will let you know how I feel about them if or when I receive them. At a minimum, I would definitely be very appreciative. Story 15. I think flowers are beautiful and I would be grateful if I were given flowers as a gift. But that does not mean I like flowers. Story 16. I love to have houseplants and take the time to nurture and grow them. I would appreciate the thought and effort of someone giving me flowers. I get flowers all the time for my significant other, but it is just not for me. Story 17. Man, I love flowers and I buy them for myself sometimes. Flowers are beautiful and one of nature's miracles. What else is there to say? Do I want flowers from my partner? Yes, and they gave me some in the past. However, I would be happier with a homemade cake, cookies, or a sexy outfit. Story 18. Much like my wife, I like flowers, but since we are not very green-thumbed, we do not often give each other flowers. That being said, I like receiving flowers, actually any gift, as it is one of my love languages. Story 19. I have no interest in flowers. I can understand on an intellectual level that it is a nice gesture, but I feel nothing about it. Granted, I do not really want to take care of flowers either, so I would probably throw them away. Story 20. For a few years now, I have been planting local flowers all over my garden to support pollinators. This year was disappointing because the seed mix was poor, but in previous years, I had a variety of different flowers blooming for months. Story 21. It's not so much the flowers as the meaning. I would love it to say, I think about you and wanted to do a thoughtful gesture to show appreciation. That is what it would mean to me. Story 22. I love them probably because my father did. Why did he love them? Because he was a soldier in World War II on the very sharp end of the stick. He saw and participated in awful things. Flowers and gardening created beauty for him after the hell he had seen. Story 23. I like just about anything someone wants to give me. I don't think the issue is that men do or do not like to receive flowers. The real point is that someone actually spending time thinking about and getting a gift for us is a rare occurrence. If you put even a small amount of effort into getting a gift for us, we will love it. Story 24. Well, men are more likely to be colorblind, and flowers can upset and confuse those who are colorblind. Not really, but flowers are not very practical. I can appreciate nice arrangements as I often deal with them in my job, but outside of the novelty of receiving flowers for the first time, I don't think I would enjoy being given them. Story 25. I like the green plants in the office at work, and I am the only one who looks after them. The atmosphere is completely different with them. A couple of bright yellow sunflowers on the dining table also create a different mood. Every now and then, I pick some up on the way home. Flowers mean nothing to me as a gift except Lego set 10315 or maybe Lego set 10281. Story 26. My wife of 27 years buys me flowers on my birthday every year. She is the only person who has ever bought flowers for me. Story 27. If I had a partner, they would get me flowers. We would have a very special night. Dinner, a bath with candles, dried off, lotion applied, and a massage, followed by an intense experience leading to complete relaxation. Story 28. I really hate flowers. I have a phobia. It is quite uncommon, but it is called anthophobia. Personally, I think there are stranger phobias, but people always seem to think I am joking. I just think flowers look really creepy, and I do not want them near me. Story 29. I have seen several men say that they would love to receive flowers, but I have also seen many more men share my sentiment. I would appreciate the thought, but I would really rather not get flowers. I just cannot see any point to them. It is better to get me chocolate or beer or something that I can actually enjoy. Story 30. I love flowers, but I'm more into growing them than receiving them. I have a lot growing on my apartment deck. Sometimes I'll pick up a bouquet if they're freshly cut at a market. A bunch of roses or something as a gift wouldn't do much for me. Story 31. I would like the flowers, but a pat on the back, either mine or yours, will make me smile more than a bouquet. Story 32. I've had a bouquet of dried flowers hanging on my bookcase for almost a year now. It looks really nice, to be honest. Story 33. I really enjoy flowers, with the caveat that I prefer them alive. A nice bush or bulbs would be a lovely present for me. Story 34. I would say thank you, smile, and be grateful for the gift, but I am generally indifferent about receiving flowers. Not for some silly reason like, I am a man, do not give me flowers, but simply because it is not something I really care about. Story 35. Hell yes. My wife sometimes gives me plants like a bouquet out of love, but I prefer actual plants I can keep alive. I try to keep them going. Story 36. A flower is not indicative of sexuality or personal preferences. This question is similar to asking if gay men might like monster trucks. Liking something is just liking something. Nothing else should be inferred. Story 37. What's not to like? They are cool and beautiful by default. Have you ever looked at a sunflower as it goes through its life? It's crazy. It's hundreds of tiny flowers in one big flower, with a yellow hue that even my favorite monitor couldn't beat. Its flowers are in high definition. Story 38. I would not really want them. It is sweet, but I would have preferred to receive something else if you wanted to do something like that. Story 39. This is the second most unusual question about masculinity. The first was about people not washing their buttocks in the shower because they are not gay. Men can enjoy flowers, wear pink, and wash themselves without fearing that they will become homosexual. Story 40. I've seen this type of question so often that I have actually given it some thought. Here is the opinion I have arrived at. On a first date, if you bought me a single flower, I would find it absolutely adorable and would probably spend the whole date fiddling with it. Beyond that, I am so minimalist I just would not appreciate them as much. I would rather be gifted food. Story 41. I like giving flowers, and I also enjoy growing them because I love landscaping. While receiving flowers is a nice gesture that I truly appreciate, given their cost, I would much rather go to a restaurant for dinner. It is okay, though. Story 42. I have never received flowers before, but I know I would like them or any kind of interesting plant as a gift, if they were potted and ready for growing or keeping in the home. It would remind me of the person who gave them. Flowers that are pre-cut and need to be thrown out do not sound appealing, to be honest. Story 43. Outside in the garden, sure. I plant them for color and to attract helpful insects. But a bunch of flowers, no. You have just cut the reproductive parts off the plant. I do not care for the subtext of that. Story 44. I love planting and growing all the different colors, smells, and varieties. I am not very interested in cut flowers or bouquets. My partner loves cut flowers and flower arranging, so it works out great. Story 45. Why would you give a man flowers unless he specifically says he would like some flowers? I cannot think of a more useless gift to receive as a man, to be honest. Please stop thinking like this and choose a gift that is appropriate for a man. Story 46. I send all my friends photos of flowers from my hikes. They like them. I do not want to give them the flowers physically because they will just die. It is better to let them grow in the wild. Story 47. 7. Any more and the time-flower space continuum collapses in on itself. We switch out every other week. This week is Jeff's turn. I am up next. I might get excited and buy an orchid. Story 48. I do not know about receiving flowers, but I just like them in general. I can see myself learning to garden or arrange flowers or both. The fact that we have placed meaning in every flower is interesting to me as well. Story 49. I grow flowers around the house. I like the way they look and smell. I do not get upset when the deer eat them or when I kill them by leaving town for a week in the summer. Story 50. What types of flowers are we discussing? I have no interest in receiving a bouquet, but I love going out into nature and enjoying the plants. Story 51. Tulips and daffodils are nice in a garden, but I would not know how to react or what to do if someone gave me some. Story 52. If they could get past their macho behavior, I suspect many men would like to receive flowers. A caveat, however, my opinion might not be completely unbiased since I am bisexual, but I do think that many men are unnecessarily hung up on acting like a man when it is far better to be genuine and act like yourself rather than someone you are not. And no, I have never received flowers from anyone, so I cannot precisely predict how I would react, but I would try to accept them as the gift they were intended to be. Story 53. No. No flowers. Silly idea. Food, yes. Cookie too. I had a girlfriend who traveled and would buy me a t-shirt from the local area she was visiting, which I thought was endearing. Flowers are too sentimental. Story 54. I love to watch plants grow and enjoy them in garden settings. I am not a big fan of handing over something that is about to wilt and die while stuck in a vase. I would much prefer to be given a plant in a pot that I can nurture and grow. Story 55. I love flowers. I stop and take pictures often, even during mountain bike rides. I also press and frame flowers as a hobby. Story 56. I love looking at flowers wherever they appear, but I would rather not receive any, to be honest. A plant meant to live outside, on the other hand, would be a very welcome gift if I had a suitable backyard for it. Story 57. My girlfriend will randomly pick some flowers from her garden and make me a bouquet. It really brightens up my apartment and makes me happy every time I see them. Story 58. I don't particularly care about them unless they trigger my allergies. Honestly, if it were up to me, my entire yard would be covered with astroturf and artificial bushes and flowers. I really dislike yard work. Story 59. I would love flowers just for the thought behind them. I am not into plants, and something that aligns with my interests would be more practical. However, gifts are not necessarily about utility. Someone cared to add some color to my day, and that is what matters. Story 60. No. Flowers are discussed within the context of dating and relationships because women have no equivalent within that context. Men are expected to purchase expensive bouquets that last for a week and then die. This means they not only have to prepare for the planned activity but also buy flowers in advance. Meanwhile, men are lucky if their partners are ready on time. Some women say, "I receive gifts from my partner occasionally." Nice, but it is not expected. That is the difference. If a woman tells another woman, "My partner has never bought me flowers," the friend will immediately consider it a red flag. If a man says, "My partner has never bought me anything," to another man, it is just an ordinary day. Story 61. I was a teacher this past year. I came out of retirement because the school was desperate to cover 2 classes. I received a succulent plant for National Teacher Appreciation Day. I have never been gifted a plant before. It is beautiful and means so much to me. Story 62. What do you mean by like flowers? I think they smell nice, but they would not be worth much to me as a gift, other than the thought that someone gave them to me. Story 63. Being thought of is a good feeling no matter who you are. That said, a 6-pack would have the same or better impact. Still, flowers brighten up a space. You do not have to be a woman to appreciate that. Story 64. I love flowers. I grow many of them. I have 167 rose bushes around my cottage. I have developed my own strains of some flowers over decades of breeding, and I have lost one. Please do not cut my flowers unless they are roses. In that case, please understand when I top them and root them. Story 65. Flowers seem like a waste of time and money to me. Most flower shops charge more than a small meal to deliver flowers. If you are determined to buy me flowers, buy me a potted plant. I like morning glories. Otherwise, just hand me $10 and say, "Hey, I got your coffee and a breakfast item at the coffee shop tomorrow. Like you bunches." I will be like, "What? You are awesome." Story 66. Not me. I have given them to women but have no interest in them myself. It seems a waste of a living thing. Story 67. I am a man, and my female partner buys me flowers. I love it, but it is definitely not for everyone. Story 68. I like flowers. However, there are many things I would prefer to receive instead. Why don't women ask if men like chocolate? I believe many men enjoy chocolate. Chocolate would be a safe choice. I like chocolate and would much rather receive it. Story 69. I really enjoy flowers, but I prefer them planted where they can continue to grow and be enjoyed by pollinators. Story 70. I'm not even straight, but what am I going to do with flowers? I get flowers for my wife, they don't bother me. But if she didn't like them, I would have no problem getting something else or whatever. I would much rather give her practical gifts. And don't get me wrong, I do that too. But flowers just sit there and look pretty, and then they die. I don't see the appeal. Story 71. I like growing flowers. However, buying cut flowers is a huge waste of money. I still buy cut flowers for the women in my life, but I hate it. Story 72. I appreciate flowers for what they are, but have never wanted or thought of them as a gift for me. Story 73. I am usually nervous because I feel like I might be allergic to it since it may be closely related to wild grass. I have a moderate intolerance to grass pollen. Story 74. I like flowers, but I do not actually enjoy receiving them. I do not know how to care for them, and to me that means they will die quite quickly. I prefer flowers in the ground or on trees. Story 75. I appreciate how pretty they can be, but I would probably rather not receive them. When my partner wants to get me something nice, she will get me a bottle of my favorite drink or a chocolate bar. Story 76. Don't give me flowers. I love flowers, but why would you give me flowers? Give me something related to a hobby I like, or some pocket notebooks because I'm always taking notes to remember little things throughout my day, and I run out of those quickly. Or my favorite pen. Something simple, but don't give me flowers. I feel like you're trolling me. Now, if you want to show me pictures of flowers and say, we should get some posters. Now we're talking. Story 77. I like flowers and plants in general, but I would utterly despise receiving them as a gift from a woman. Story 78. I pick and display flowers whenever they are blooming in our garden. I particularly like tropical flowers such as Strelitzia and Heliconia, which are found in good variety in and around our yard. Story 79. Do you like flowers that are planted in the ground? Sure. Expensive dying things that have been cut and given to me? Not really. Story 80. I have had straight friends appreciate flowers, especially if they are interested in gardening or sentimental gestures. Story 81. Certainly would not object to it. It is outside of the cultural norm, so it might catch me off guard a little bit. However, I would definitely be flattered by the thought. Story 82. Millions of men like cannabis flower. As a grower, I appreciate all plants, but bouquets of flowers are for women. If I got a bouquet, I would instantly think it was a prank. It is not very manly to receive flowers gleefully. Story 83. I have only ever received flowers once, and the funny thing is that it was not even from a former lover. It was from a lady friend with whom I was close. I was pleasantly surprised and would not say I liked it, but the gesture was greatly appreciated. It made me realize that the next time I will probably get flowers would be when I expire. I will still be thankful in case I get flowers, but it is not something I really expect. Story 84. I dislike flowers intensely. Why take something from the ground, pluck it, and watch it die over the next week? Story 85. I am not into receiving flowers, but I love flowers in general and take pictures of them frequently. I tried to maintain 3 irises recently. One of them survived almost 2 years before dying. The other 2 lasted less than a year. Story 86. I do not really care about receiving plants. It is a waste of money and pointless because they will wilt and rot. Potted plant, however, works. Story 87. I have been receiving flowers from my girlfriends and sister since I was about 13, for my birthday or Valentine's Day. I never understood why it became that way, but I am the attractive brother among my siblings, so I guess it makes sense. Story 88. I thought this living thing was beautiful, so I killed it for you and wrapped its carcass with aesthetically pleasing companions. I think cut flowers are unappealing. As a token of my affection, watch this thing wither for a few days and then throw it in the trash. Live plants are interesting, though. I recognize my own hypocrisy because I enjoy real Christmas trees. But if a girl gave me a bouquet of flowers, I would assume she is trying too hard to challenge gender norms. Story 89. Give me seeds to grow. What am I going to do with flowers that will die like I am on the inside already? Story 90. Honestly, I think more men appreciate flowers than they admit. My father has a garden he tends to regularly, and he spends hours walking around looking at everything. Story 91. As a fellow straight man who enjoys picking flowers, I love picking some flowers for the kitchen when I am out shopping for protein substances and ammunition. They are beautiful and do a great job of brightening up the place. Story 92. I like receiving gifts that are thoughtful. Flowers are bland and generic. I would like to receive a gift, and it being a flower would be nice. Receiving a gift, such as a new air pump for my tires, would be great. Story 93. I like flowers to a normal level. I appreciate their different designs and enjoy watching time-lapse videos of them opening up. Nature is quite interesting. I can naturally smell the scent of a flower to know what is outside. I might be too used to encountering flower-scented products, which tend to be more powerful. I do not look for videos on growing and maintaining flowers, though. Story 94. Yes, but then the wise men inside me wake up and say, why be so happy that another person took freedom from flowers to bloom and gave you a sign of love that shows they are also going to snatch your freedom? Story 95. I would like my girl to receive a flower, put it in her mouth and say, honey, come closer. This is for you. You deserve this. Not a bunch of flowers, but one. Story 96. I do not dislike flowers, but I do not have an emotional reaction to them either. They do not make me feel anything. Story 97. I garden because I like flowers in my garden to attract bees. I think buying flowers is a waste, though. Story 98. I like them, but I do not especially want to receive them. I grew up with a green-thumbed mom where the norm was to receive something to plant in pots or the garden. Sadly, I did not inherit her green thumb, and anything given to me would die quickly. Story 99. I do not particularly like purely ornamental things, especially if they expire. I always feel weird receiving gifts in general. I would appreciate the thought, though. Story 100. I'm allergic, so I like 2 flowers in total. Outside of a special occasion, for example, a birthday, I would be perplexed if I received a flower. Story 101. I've received flowers in the office. I've had them bought for me, and I loved it both times. I also buy my own regularly, and I grow red sunflowers, fancy and expensive dahlias, and more besides. I'm happy with that, as well as giving flowers. Story 102. I like flowers and wouldn't mind receiving them. For men, if you are trying to surprise us with a gift, know that we are simple creatures. As long as it is something you know we like and you surprise us with it, we will be happy because it is the act of receiving something that means something to us. At least to me. I do not know about other men, but I typically do not get anything. Story 103. I actually receive flowers on a semi-regular basis as a performing artist. I call them death offerings because all they do is die. Sure, they look pretty in the short term, but I value more lasting or more enjoyable things much more. Story 104. I just don't understand. Giving flowers is a kind gesture, and anyone should be thankful for receiving them. If a person doesn't appreciate the gesture and gets visibly upset, I will have to hold your hand while I tell you this. It's not the flowers that are at fault. Story 105. No. Flowers are pointless. Jewelry is pointless. It honestly annoys me that practically everything society pushes you to buy for women has absolutely zero utility. Story 106. I like flowers. However, killing them and tying a ribbon on them does not spark joy. Story 107. That was a question on my Army entrance exam. They asked it 3 or 4 times. I mean, yes, I like flowers, puppies, and kittens. One version of the question was, would you like to be a florist? Story 108. Not particularly. My partner buys a lot of plants for the house, and they do make it very nice. I appreciate that, but I don't want a plant of my own. Flowers, rather than plants, don't do much for me. They don't last long for what they cost. They might not even be in the same room as me for much of their lifespan, and I don't really care for the smell. I do like roses, though. Story 109. For me, it is a waste of time and money. I prefer to receive a service, such as mowing or cleaning, a chore that I usually do myself. I like help, not stuff. If I need something, I buy or barter for it. I prefer service over material things. Story 110. I like flowers. I think they are pretty, and I love that my wife plants them all over the yard. I also like to buy her flowers, so we have them in a vase in the house because I think they liven up any space she puts them, which is usually on our kitchen table. I am not sure I would like to receive them, but that is mostly because in the 50-plus years I have been alive, no one ever did that. Story 111. I love flowers. I regularly buy flowers for the house. I give them to my wife, but to be honest, it is maybe 20% to give her flowers and 80% because I want flowers in the living room. I would be pleasantly surprised if I got flowers. Story 112. I love flowers when they are attached to plants that are actively growing in the ground. I would not love to receive a bunch of cut flowers. Story 113. I actually sent my boyfriend a beautiful bouquet of flowers to his office a few weeks ago. I swear I could hear him blushing through the phone. I say yes, give him the flowers. If you get a lukewarm reception to those, there are always bacon roses. Story 114. The only time I want flowers is on my casket. Otherwise, it is a massive waste of money. Save your pennies and show affection instead. He will appreciate it more. Story 115. I love flowers. If someone gave them to me, I would appreciate the thought, but it would not affect me. Receiving $1 would make me happier. Story 116. I like flowers. My bicycle helmet has a flower design on it. I would like to receive them too, although it is more about the intention behind it than the actual flowers. Story 117. I like flowers planted in the ground. I do not like receiving cut flowers because that is wasteful. Story 118. I would rather receive oral sex, and I am not the biggest fan of it. Flowers are nice, but a waste of money in my opinion. Bring me a six-pack of some beer I might not have tried but would probably like. That sort of thing is important, but only if you get it right. I do not have to like the beer, but if you bring some Hefeweizen that I will dislike just by looking at it, you have failed the assignment. Story 119. Yes, I like flowers. Sometimes I send flowers to my friends on their birthdays. Let's normalize men sending flowers to men. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.